A lot of you gave a good deal of money to come here, and I thank you. But this has been on your books for 3 decades. It was at least a more understandable error at the time it was done. The state of knowledge was very different than it is today. And the fears about cloning and, all of that that's not what this is about. This is simply about allowing Michigan to do to the maximum extent of federal law what can be done in any other state. And Hillary's trying to change the federal law simply to say what I said earlier, what our ethical guidelines recommended back in 1999. If you have embryonic stem cell potential and embryos that were developed to deal with fertility issues and they will never be fertilized and they can legally be thrown away, then by voluntary open consent, the people who possess them should be able to give them to medical research. That's the law, what the law ought to be. And you ought to be able to do whatever the law allows. You're not going to lose this unless people go into the polling place not knowing the facts and not hearing the stories or seeing the pictures. In other words, if you give the crowd that's doing this campaign enough money to get through the next 3 weeks, this will prevail. And so, whenever I come to this and I see somebody went to so much trouble to set these beautiful tables, and I thought the band was great. I wish I'd been out here, but I heard you in there when I was posing for pictures. Thank you very much for performing. All of you did all this work. This cannot be for nothing. This is for this young woman's life and millions of people. I'll just give you another example. There's been a tripling of the number of our children in this country born with autistic conditions in the last 15 years. Tripling. And nobody knows why. Now, typically people think, I think most of the parents groups think it's because of a mercury residue in mandatory inoculations that have adverse effects on some people, and the cure may have nothing to do with stem cell research. But nobody knows. You really can't mention any significant health problem that at least we wouldn't be able to know more about if we could measure the genomic variances among us all and what might be done with the fruits of what we learn in stem cell research. So that's my case. Now I want to say, if I were in Michigan and I didn't know anybody who'd ever had cancer, a heart attack, a stroke, Lou Gehrig's disease, Alzheimer's, a spinal cord injury, and anything else we've talked about today, I would be for this, because there's not a state in the country that's been hurt harder than you have from the economic adversity of this decade. And as awful as this economic cratering has been, it actually is a harbinger of a new and different and I think more hopeful economy if we don't mess it up. And I get kind of frustrated when I see everybody continuing in this hand-wringing pessimism. Consider this. Every single person who has bet against the United States for over 200 years has lost money. Because we always wind up doing the right thing. So here's what I think about the jobs issue and the economic impact. We got about 10 years worth of work that has to be done on energy, which is why the Congress should approve this assistance package to the auto industry to accelerate the production of plug-in electric vehicles and the modernization of it, and give you all tax credits to buy them in a hurry and make us liberated from oil. Which is, the governor told me that you got a new manufacturer of windmills. Made me happy. We're waiting 2 years for them in upstate New York now, and we put a lot of people to work and save the planet for our kids and grandkids. You got about 10 years worth of real jobs that can be done, building better buildings and retrofitting those that exist, and doing all this work that is good for global warming, good for national security, and good for starting business and raising incomes and creating jobs. But over the long run, the future of the American economy will rest more with our brains than with our backs. And more back work will require more brain work. And I believe the next decade will be the decade of biotechnology. We're pretty close here to a pretty good university, and you got one or two others in this state in case you haven't noticed. And why would you, with this incredible infrastructure of universities, of hospitals, of people who know, of the ability to manage. I was looking at one of your ads at home the other night. The governor runs all these come to Michigan and do business ads, you know. And believe it or not, they're actually shown. And when Hillary's out giving speeches for Senator Obama, I get home alone watching TV. And I'm a guy, I watch movies and sports, right? And I still see your ads. But look, you just think about where are those jobs going to be. Here's what's going to happen when we flush all this problem through our system, we get ourselves organized again. We'll stop trying to make money and generate wealth by having riskier and riskier and riskier financial deals in which you make more money just if you turn the money over. We'll start loaning money more in the old-fashioned way, and the people who loan money will have to keep bigger reserves, probably around 10% like all banks do. You won't have a lot of these derivatives and companies leveraged 33 to 1, and that'll slow some things down. But we will use old-fashioned finance to do very new things in products and services. We can still, if we just get our heads on straight, we'll lead the world into a new energy era, and we can lead the world into a new biotechnology era, but we can't do it if we expect our brightest and best people in the places where you know you need the investment most to walk around in handcuffs in ways that cost people's lives and robs us of the full potential of people like that magnificent young woman who spoke to us today. You cannot do it. You have got to help yourself. So if you don't remember a word I said tonight, you'll remember Laura. And when she talked about being able to breathe without a ventilator for 15 minutes, every one of you breathed, didn't you? Didn't you? Without even thinking, you were conscious of your capacity to breathe. Every single person. This is the morally right thing to do. From the point of view of America's role in the world in scientific advance, it is the right thing to do. It is an economic imperative if you're going to complete the diversification and modernization of the Michigan economy that your public officials and so many others have worked on. But the most important thing is your people will do the right thing if they know. So if you haven't given yet, give them the money. All people need is the information. More than half the time, the American people do the right thing if they know the facts. This is the pro-life position. This is the pro-health position. This is the pro-science position. It's definitely a pro-Michigan position, and it's about her future and yours. Thank you, and God bless you. Thank you. Thank you.